Oh, baby. It's last episode of the year. It's almost New Year's.
2025 is over.
Yeah. And here are what we're calling the top three left of 2025. And as we close out this year and probably post some more additional broadcasts just to fill up some air, I want you all to know that David and I, speaking on his behalf, which he loves when I do that,
Oh, yeah.
I want to wish you all a very happy and healthy New Year's. Know that we are planning to be here yet for another year to disrupt and show and bring some levity to some very, very serious problems and fundamental issues that we are faced with in the media and the world around us. So without wasting any more of our valuable time that you are taking to follow us, let us dive right on in with the number 3. Trump in power. Donald Trump just didn't disrupt politics. He disrupted the entire power structure in politics that has gone unquestioned for 240 years. His presidency, which began with an elevator pitch, began and exposed how deeply entrenched bureaucracy, media's institution, and the political elite have grown accustomed of operating without any challenges. And this resistance was about tone. And it wasn't about norms, but it was about control. And President Trump, outside of approval, he went out to destroy the modern presidency by engaging in borders, energy, trade, and foreign policy in ways in which have never been seen from the president's office. David, how's that?
You know what, Stuart? I got to tell you, let me remind everybody. Let's rewind, folks. When Trump took power in 2017, I mean, it was like, oh my God, the end of the world. Words like autocrat started to pop out. Stuff he was saying, doing this and that. And it was like over those 4 years in presidency, he realized and he surrounded himself with the wrong people that were looking to destroy him, not to lift him. And he was furious with what occurred after, when the Biden administration used and empowered the Department of Justice, the FBI, to go after Trump, his family. How many different court cases, how many different lawsuits, how many different district attorneys were just salivating at the notion of trying to incarcerate a former president, only for him to come back in 2024, not only rip through the Republican Party in terms of a nomination, and we had guys like Nikki Haley, Ron DeSantis, real people like we thought were going to take on Marco Rubio, we're going to take on, and all this kind of stuff. And in comes like a bull in a china shop, Donald Trump. We forgot last summer that Donald Trump was nearly killed in a field in Pennsylvania while giving a speech. This is how much the left hated the idea that Donald Trump will reemerge. The exposure of the Kamala Harris campaign as being a falsehood, the lies behind Biden's presidency, the auto, and you name it. When Donald Trump came in, he was going to do scorched earth. He said it throughout his whole campaign, what he was going to do. And it shouldn't have been a shock, Stuart, to anybody that he was going to come in like a bull in a china shop. And he did. And what he accomplished in his first 100 days, presidents didn't accomplish in 4 years in power. Did he disrupt America? Oh, baby, did he ever. Starting with Doge, he really, really turned the screws on the Democrats, on the public service, and on a whole bunch of other people. One false, crazy, eccentric program after another was exposed. The billions of dollars sent to all kinds of nations for all kinds of stupid shit. And that's just where he started.
David, whether you support him or not, the lessons that Donald J. Trump is undeniable. When it comes to power is challenged, it reveals itself. Many Americans saw for the first time how fragile democratic norms can become even when they are not pre-approved. David, that brings us.
Well, hold on. Well, you don't get to control this. Holy crap, I still had something to say about DT. Listen, Donald Trump, one thing about Donald Trump, ladies and gentlemen, and people say when he came into power, what we're still seeing is this idea of the Democrats trying to unseat him. Words like, again, autocrat, Nazi, white supremacist, you name it, has been thrown on this guy, and he just goes, flick. He doesn't care. He's on a plane flying back from wherever and holding a press conference, an impromptu press conference. Must drive his team crazy every time he does that. But he's opened up to the media. He's given them so much. And in return, from The View to MSNBC to all the rest of them, it's about finding ways to destroy the presidency. The hypocrisy. So when we say that Trump is back in power, oh, baby, he's in power. All right. Moving on. Speaking of power, Stuart, let me punt this one to you. New York City. The Statue of Liberty was once opened up her arms to all kinds of immigrants, come to America, but there was one condition. This is America, and America is what we uphold. But it seems that New York City kind of decided, nah, let's go in a different direction. Zoran Mamdani is the new mayor of New York City, Stuart.
All right. New York didn't decline because of bad luck. It declined because of ideology replaced accountability. Zoran Mamdani, this seems to be the leader who's chosen to govern this symbolism in the city of light, the city that never sleeps. And the consequences are visible. Whether you're looking in the subway platform or storefront windows or law enforcement. Law enforcement was vilified and will continue to be vilified. Basic standards of law and order are labeled oppressive. And when rules stop being enforced, the predictable happens. Crime will rise, businesses will leave, and everyday people are paying the price for this. Isn't compassion. This isn't a free ride. This is a neglect masquerading as virtue. Cities don't collapse because people demand safety. They collapse when leaders refuse to provide it. And Mayor-elect Mamdani, who consistently and time again believes from the river to the sea. What do you have to say, David, about New York?
Look, New York to me is going to be one of two things in 4 years. Utterly destroyed, or socialist capital of America. It's going to go one of two ways. And Mamdani can't wait. Mamdani can't wait. He's proven that socialism sells to a whole generation that doesn't know what 9/11 was, doesn't understand that socialism, which we've talked about, isn't taught in schools. And because of that, kids are going, what a wonderful ideology. Ignoring the fact of Venezuela, ignoring the fact what Argentina's emerged from, ignoring what's going on in Cuba, China, Russia, other places where this was imposed. Not ignoring the fact that people, I know many immigrants who came here from Eastern Europe and Russia who said this is the definition of insanity. But the fact that Mamdani is also a card-carrying racist and that his hate towards white people, Jews, you name it, is brushed under the rug. It's extraordinary, Stuart. If we go back to the last episode, we talked about the media and the media is what's wrong with the media. This is a great example. They made excuses for a guy who's a traitor. He's a traitor. He's supported the notion of death to America. Imagine a leader of the largest city in America chanting death to America. Whoa, baby. Because that's what you're doing. Because socialism doesn't exist in the United States. It's not what the fundamentals of the United States is. The fundamentals is capitalism, whether you like it or not. And yes, it's unaffordable in New York. Yes, there are many other things. But to go ahead and to say, you know what, we're going to take capitalism, Wall Street, everything that makes New York what it is, and we're going to toss it in the garbage. Holy moly, what 4 years from now, what New York City might look like.
David, cities don't collapse because people demand safety. They collapse when leaders refuse to provide it. New York remains a warning to every major metro city flirting with these slogans.
You bet.
And David, as we talk about slogans and we hit our number one topic, 2025, it's called anti-Semitism. Anti-Semitism is no longer lurking in the shadows. It's marching openly through Western institutions that once claimed moral superiority. What makes this moment uniquely dangerous isn't the hatred itself, but how quickly it's being rationalized. We are watching a historically condemned prejudice get rebalanced as context, resistance, and justice, depending on who's speaking and who is being targeted. The most alarming part is the institutional complicity. Universities hesitate to enforce their own rules of conduct. Corporate leaders issue statements that manage optics rather than principles. And political leaders parse language so carefully that the condemnation becomes meaningless and watered down. When hatred is conditional, when it depends on the victim, it stops being a moral stance and becomes a political calculation. And history, David, has shown its ugly head.
You know what? Beautiful words. The reality, ladies and gentlemen, in what we've seen today when it comes to anti-Semitism is who cares? It's only been about a week since Bondi Beach when 15 Jews were killed on a beach celebrating Hanukkah. But the media doesn't want to say they're Jews. These were people at a Jewish event. It's not the same thing. Can't give Jews any sympathy. Despite what happened on October 7th, 2023, despite an obvious targeting of Jews what he did was, the one of the people who was caught on camera saving Jews and and disarming one of the terrorists, he's getting a lot of the notoriety. He's getting the attention. What a way to go to get away from the anti-Semitism. You know, we're hearing Islamophobia equals anti-Semitism on the same vein, and the statistics are completely negating that philosophy. Anti-Semitism is at extraordinary highs. The per capita rates, the actual rates, take any statistic you want. It makes no sense that this tiny percentage of a population has this disproportionate number of attacks globally. And yet, as soon as there's an anti-Semitism something, we throw in Islamophobia. Despite the fact that in Canada, for example, in Europe, there are more Muslims than Jews, and yet they want that attention. That anytime something happens to the Jewish community, they have to be at the forefront. Stuart, if you tell me since October the 7th, how many mosques, Muslim community centers were attacked with long-range rifles, where people were killed, the answer is zero. None on a global scale. But look how many Jewish institutions were fired at, firebombed, destroyed, people nearly killed. And of course, on Bondi Beach, what we saw was the death. The disproportionate attention is disgusting. The media doesn't want to help. Politicians don't want to help. And what you saw with Prime Minister Albanese in Australia is exactly what I'm talking about. This was an anti-Semitic attack.
Mhm.
His answer was, we need better legislation for guns. No, Mr. Albanese, what you need is to stop pandering to the immigrants and the radical Islamists that you think are voting you in. This is what's happened in New York. This is what's going to happen in the US. This is what's happened in Canada. This is happening in Western Europe. It is consistent that the Jewish community is part of the foundation of any community, regardless of where they are in the world. Jews integrate into society to make it better. They're contributors to society. Stuart has been very vocal about this. We add with medical, science, economics, you name it, Jews become a plus in society. Ask yourself now what's going on in France and Belgium when Jews are disappearing. What's replaced?
Yep.
That is what anti-Semitism is doing to you. And by the way, it's not going to stop with Jews.
Listen, political Islamist practice is what's outlawed in most, I'm going to call them Western Arabian countries. History has shown us that anti-Semitism is never an isolated phenomena. It's a warning sign. Societies that tolerate it are signaling that truth, fact, and humanity, dignity are negotiable. And when the Arabic Peninsula is saying to the world that Islamic political behavior is not tolerated here, and we welcome it here, that should be concerning everyone, not just Jewish communities, but communities around the world. David, this brings this 2025 year to a close. And before I sign off for myself, allowing you to sign up for yourself for 2025, so don't be afraid.
Oh, thank you, sir.
I want to wish everyone a health and happy and a prosperity for the year to come. I hope that we find peace and civility. I hope that we find understanding and tolerance. And I hope we put an end to this ugly head called anti-Semitism, which was the number one issue that we brought up in 2025. Believe it or not, though, it didn't garner the most amount of clicks, which is probably the most discerning for me. Because when hatred lifts its weary head as a snake out of a bush, and if you don't behead that snake, it will likely bite you in the future. And that, David, is why I am, cautiously optimistic. I hope that in 2026, David and I sort of fine-tune our rant as we have in the last quarter of 25. And I hope that in 26, it sheds light for all.
Well, Stuart, wonderful words. And I really want to echo that. We should be all blessed with a year of health, happiness, success, and peace in 2026. And it's not just anti-Semitism. It would be blissful if some anti-Semitism would be okay. But ladies and gentlemen, 2026 is looking to be another one of those roller coaster years. Divisive attitudes, difficult arguments, and we've talked about in our top 10 about what is getting in the way in society. We've ranted about it. We're no psychiatrists, we're no psychologists, but what we are, just two guys. We're just fed up and tired. And we hope that in 2026, things will improve just a little bit. And on that note, we'll see you guys back live with new recordings as of January the 5th. We're going to take a little vacay. We need it. So we'll see the top 10. We'll have a couple of our top episodes between now and January the 2nd. But on the 5th, guys, we'll be back louder than ever. Have a good one, everyone. Happy New Year. All the best.